It happened accidentally that I started playing drums. Then I ended up playing the O2 Arena with you guys, which was actually frightening. You tried to throw me after one of the best drummers in the world with the feel, the groove, and then this, and I'm like...
Moving to Chelsea was like the holy grail in some ways, isn't it?
Sometimes the trainings were actually more intense than some of the games. That was obviously a key reason why we were actually winning. When you play Champions League, you play all the top players in the world. Messi, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho.
And you got to play with Roger Taylor, didn't you, at one point?
And I came to his studio, mess around with his drum kit. I don't remember the moment of the action of going to collect the ball, and I didn't know where I am, what happened, why I'm there. That was one of the worst feelings I had.
And you got death threats at the time as well, didn't you? If you're anybody starting out in a business or sport or anyone else, I would say to them, look at your life and see how Petr Čech dealt with it. Peter, thank you so much for coming on the show. We've been friends since 2019, I think now. And actually, the first time I met you, you were playing drums at the O2 with Miro Zabirka, who's a big star here in the Czech Republic, so we're back at the scene of the crime in Prague. And I remember we had some of the McCartney guys as well on stage with you, and I was doing a bit of singing. And I remember at one point, sort of, you're at the back, and then Hamish and Robbie, you know, on guitars, and I just thought, what am I doing here? It's like three of my heroes are on stage, and it was just fantastic. We had a great time, and that was the beginning of kind of knowing you as a mate. And then, honestly, you know, I've been researching for the podcast, and I have to. I was a little overwhelmed with the success, because it's like just reading some stats. It was like 443 Premier League appearances, 494 appearances in overall competitions, 4 Premier League titles, 3 League Cup titles. You won the Champions League, the Europa League, 5 times FA Cup winner, 124 caps for the Czech Republic, Guinness Book of Records for clean sheet in Premier League games, numerous Golden Glove Awards. The list goes on. And it was like, I was just thinking, what is your secret? What is the process to getting to that level of success?
I think it's the, you know, when you read it like that, it sounds like I've done pretty well, didn't I? But I have to say,
you know,
the secret, I think you have to have the passion and you have to love what you do. And I think the difference is that you have to love what you do even in the days where you hate it.
Right.
You know, in a way, there are days where you feel like, oh, this is tough, this is going nowhere, you have obstacles in the journey. And you just need to persevere. You just need to get over it and do it. And I think because I generally love the game and the challenges that brings the game onto you every day, I sort of strive under pressure, you know, moving my limits and showing where that the barriers can be jumped. And that was probably why I did it. I had the right support as well from people around me, but I think the inner engine I had in me, knowing that that is what I want to do, this is what I love, and I want to see how far it can get me, and I would do anything to find the ways to improve, to get there, and to try to be as best as possible, and to see how I can get there and how far I can get. That was the curiosity about it as well. Where is my limit, actually?
But your focus. I think of everyone I've ever met in my life who's really successful, the focus is huge, and your focus is extraordinary. Not only as a football player, but you know, as a person on a general level, and then also, you know, you study business as well, and you're a great drummer. Anything you put your hand to, you seem to really throw yourself into the whole process.
You know, I always think about what I want to do, and then when I go and I decide to do something, take up on something, I go full speed. I really go and say, okay, I decided to do that. Now this is the time to go and see how far I can get. And it was the same with everything. With my drumming, it was the same. You know, it happened accidentally that I started playing drums, and then when I found the joy and the beauty of participating actively, playing music and playing to your favorite songs, then I was like, you know, I would love to be able to play any song I love. Not that I can play 5 out of my 10 favorite songs. I would love to play all of them, you know. But then you know that it takes years and it takes days and hours of practicing and finding the right way to do it. Not just that you spend the time, but you have to really know. And this is where I started. I started looking for the ways to practice. I started to ways to improve, to give myself the chance to actually play all of my favorite songs. And then, you know, then I met a couple of people. I played a couple of festivals. Then I ended up playing the O2 Arena with you guys, which was actually frightening because, you know, for someone who is not really that familiar playing like big gigs, live music. And then you have Blair playing drums, and then you tell me, okay, after Blair, you go. And I'm thinking,
one of the best drummers in the world.
And I'm like, you try to throw me after one of the best drummers in the world with the feel, the groove, and then this, and I'm like, okay, this is the ultimate, you know, challenge where you just go, you know what? And this is another thing. I just went and I said, okay, I do my best. I leave it there. I make everybody happy by doing it well. And enjoy it and take up the challenge, and that was exactly the O2 Arena. I was so glad, you know, when I had the opportunity. I felt the pressure as well, you know, but then when it was finished, I was like, oh man, I wish I could play more songs, you know, because you know it was a Miro's tribute, so you had the lineup, everything was going, so everybody has his, you know, the song and that, and then when it finished, first when I was watching and going there, I'm thinking, oh my God, now I'm coming, next song I'm coming on the stage, but then when I left, I was like, you know what, actually I had so much fun, and I felt really privileged to have you and Amish and Robbie and Blair and everybody, you know, playing with me on stage and with Miro obviously singing, that I thought like, this is unreal. If you had told me, you know, when I started playing drums for fun and because I found it as a great way to relax and switch off from football, if you had told me that one day I'll be in the O2 Arena podium playing drums with Paul McCartney's band or the guys who, you just go, no, I would not have believed it. But at the same time, I knew that, when I went on the stage, I knew that I have enough practice behind me that I can do it. And that was probably the key for it. Because if I knew that I can't, that it would be embarrassing, it wouldn't be good, that it would kind of ruin the performance and it wouldn't feel right, I wouldn't have agreed to do it.
I mean, you smashed it, and you were brilliant. I mean, didn't drop a beat the whole time, so we were all really impressed. But it was funny this morning, I was talking to Hamish over breakfast, and Hamish, you know, he's from Scotland. He said, you know, I was just thinking, Rob, you know, being a goalkeeper is very much like being a drummer. And I was like, yeah, you're holding it all down at the back, you know. And I kind of added, yeah, and if you get it wrong, they always blame you.
People notice, but people notice. You know, it's actually truth, because you know you might play, you know, on guitar and on keyboard, and then you know accidentally play a different chord, and with all the sound of the music, I think people who are the musicians, they would say, oh, you played the wrong chord. But 99% of the people in the audience, they will just not notice, you know. But then when the drums goes and the beat, and suddenly you hear the and everything goes quiet or wrong, then you realize, you know, that everybody will notice, like, oh, something is wrong there, or something is not working.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's similar with football, because if a midfielder loses the ball, makes a mistake, you still have people who can, you know, bail him out. And then with the goalkeeper, it's so visible, everything is visible. So there is a similarity. You sit at the back, you're watching everyone, you sort of make sure that the timing is right, that what you do together is going in a cohesion, and it's pretty similar to...
Joe Strummer once said from the Clash, he said, you're only as good as your drummer. And I agree with that. If the drummer sucks, you're dead in the water, man. It's all over, you know.
You know, that's the beauty of anything you do. You know, you have people who practice the same way, they have the same technique, they have the same sort of upbringing, and then you have one when people go and bounce and dance, and then the other one goes, and everybody goes like, oh, okay, all right. So there is, you have this, people who are successful in there, they have something the others don't, and this is the beauty of the music, that you can connect people, together and then make them dance, and if you manage to do that, that's what I love about the music, playing the live gig. I realize one thing, that if you play football, you start the game. And everybody might be excited. If it's an average game or against the team where you expect it to win quite easily, the atmosphere starts okay, everybody kind of ready. And then they expect you to be 3-0 up after 20 minutes. And if you are not, the atmosphere sort of goes down. And you hear a little bit of noises of, oh, what are you doing, guys? You're supposed to score or whatever. Then you might start losing. So then the atmosphere changes again. It's kind of funny. And then 89 minutes you score an equalizer, everybody's happy. And then 93rd you score a winner and everybody goes crazy. But when you play the gig, actually with the first hit and the first beat, everybody goes crazy. Yeah. So you actually have that emotion of the winning goal since the start of the gig.
Interesting.
And if you do it well and manage to have a good set and you play well, that carries on through the whole entire gig. And this is where probably, everybody, that's why everybody loves it. And I guess this is the unbelievable experience to have, because in football you get there, sometimes you have to go step by step to get to that feeling, but the gig just brought straight away these emotions, and you can carry it on through if you do well, and that's what's amazing to see.
So you as a keeper, are you sensitive to the emotional state of the stadium? Do you feel that sort of energy?
You feel the energy, definitely. I've never listened to what people say or what they sing or what they chant.
Sure.
Because I was in my zone, but you hear the noise. And you know which pitch comes onto you. If it's a heavy vibe, like a happy vibe, angry vibe, whatever comes, or kind of that nervousness, when you have a big game. Even the fans are nervous. And you can feel it, everything goes like, ooh, the tension is there. So you feel it, you feel it. So when it goes and the fans are behind you in a positive way, players feel it. Like sometimes people underestimate it, but the atmosphere in the stadium creates a huge difference. And I guess when you are on the stage and you feel people having fun and everybody's bouncing, it gives you that vibe that even you are like, ooh, okay, this is brilliant, and it's easier to to perform. So you can feel the vibe, you can feel it, but honestly, I wasn't one of those who had the barrier on the pitch, and what happened outside, it was not really my concern. But I felt the noise. I like the noise. Noisier it got, better it was.
So did you have to learn that over time to deal with the pressure of the crowd and the ambience and the noise? Did you build in a process to deal with it, or did you somehow, I don't know, very easily filter it out? I can't imagine it was easy to filter it out.
No, I actually built a process when I was about 14. And it was because, when you grow up and you have this dream to become a footballer and do well, you almost feel like, okay, I'm the goalkeeper, I'm not supposed to concede. And then you realize that it's impossible and inevitable. But when you are a kid, you have that in the mind, you still have that feeling like, I should be able to save everything. I should be able to do everything that, we win every time without conceding. And it stressed me out. Like letting the ball goal in, when I was about like 11, 12, 13, it gave me huge amount of stress.
Right.
Because I felt like I'm failing. But once the goal went in, everything went. Because I'm like, okay, now I felt it doesn't matter. Now I have to make sure that there is no other goal in. And I played with more relief. I played better. I was not as stressed. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, okay, I need to find a way to set my mind on a level where I will not be disturbed by that I could concentrate on what I'm doing. And in the end, when I was about 14, I came to the concept, which was my final concept I carry on through my entire life and career, and is that the score is always 0-0. Which means that I ignored the score and I ignored anything, the referee and all the things which I couldn't control. And in that way, kind of let the crowd disappear. I let the influence of the referee disappear, or the emotions of, oh, we missed the penalty. I let it completely get out of my way and literally found in my mind, I found a way to do my job. So when I do it, I just go and say, okay, this is gonna be great. There's a lot of people. It's more fun. There will be energy. But then, okay, that's it. My job. This is what I'm gonna do for the next 90 minutes, 120, whatever it takes. And when I do anything, including the drumming, I approach it the same way. I'm like, okay, what if I don't play with what if? I say, whatever happens, I will adapt. I will find a way to, to go through it, and I will just concentrate on what's my job, and I'll do it as best as possible, because I believe by doing so, people playing with me will actually benefit from it, and they will be able to perform the best way, and that's what I was doing ultimately. So when we played games when I was a kid with parents and a couple of people, or if I went to the big stadium, it was the same. For me, it was the same. You feel the tension and you have more responsibility towards, like, there's more people, but when you approach it like, I can only do what I can control, which is myself,
sure,
and ignore everything else. I played the same game when there was nobody, closed door, or if there was 100,000 people, and that helped me to be consistent, and that was the key.
Because that is the key, isn't it? Being consistent is really what it's all about, and staying at that level through your whole career.
Yeah, because you can have a season where everything goes, you can be, everything can be going right, and then you set a bar really high, but then, you don't want to drop. So you need to find that consistency to go, okay, can you do it another year? Can you do it another year? Can you do it another day or another game? Because the
Sure.
bar is high. And this was my engine to say, okay, I want to show that this is not coincidence. I want to show people that I can do it time and time again. And therefore, your preparation has to be the same time and time again. Not to be always prepared, to be always ready, and
even when you're on the bench.
Anytime, anytime to be ready. You never know what happens, because, I always say that the luck comes to those who are prepared for it. Yeah. So, sometimes to spark your career or anything moment in your life, sometimes you need luck. So, I started playing drums by luck. I ended up in goal by accident, and then there were things happening to me like, okay, I got my first chance. Maybe not by accident, but it was a bit lucky. Sometimes you get a bit lucky. But then I realized that I was always prepared. So no matter what, I was always prepared, because I prepared every day, and I said, okay, I'm gonna be ready. If anything happens, I'm ready to go. And that was my approach. When you're ready, you sort of, in the moment you need it. So your lucky moment comes, the manager comes and said, okay, you go in, and I was prepared and I was ready to take it. While some people just wait for the luck to come, but you might be actually, but you might be actually in a position where the manager finally comes and he said, yeah, you're there, and then you were not prepared. Then you fail and then go, well, I gave you your chance, you missed it, sorry, and you're out, and maybe your career looks different. So I try to avoid situations like that and kind of be always prepared.
So literally being a safe pair of hands. Just going back to the very beginning, so that first gig you got at the Czech team, I excuse my lack of pronouncing Czech towns, but so your first gig was, what was the name of that little town that you played for your first show, your first gig? It
was Blšany.
Yeah.
Chmel Blšany.
So who scouted you on that show? On that
No, but there was so I used to play for the youth team of Victoria Pilsen.
Mm-hmm.
And
because you're from Pilsen.
I'm from Pilsen, yeah. So I grew up there and played for there. And when I was about 16, there was an assistant coach of Chmel Blšany who came to watch our game because they wanted to buy our left winger.
Okay.
So he went to scout our left winger and then came back saying to the coach that he has to buy a goalkeeper. they told him, they said, oh my God, we sent you to scout the left winger and you're coming here to tell me that I have to buy the goalkeeper. And he said, yeah, I've never seen him before, but we definitely should buy this goalkeeper. So then And then when I was 17, they actually really came, put the offer on, and at that time I didn't have a professional contract in Plzeň, so I was free to go. So they basically had to pay some ratio, whatever it is there for the years of me training at the club. So you have these tables where you just find, okay, you have to pay this. It was probably, and nowadays would be probably like back then it was around like £10,000. So they paid that, and I went to sign with them, and this is where I started my professional journey.
That must have been really exciting, though. When you're 17 years of age, being taken seriously, people are paying money for you.
It was exciting, you know. It was, you know, the wages we had was almost nothing. It was almost better to go to work, but
in the
that
game.
was the start. You know, you got to start somewhere.
Sure.
You need to go and perform and show, okay, I can do it, and then I can do it at the highest level in this country. Then okay, can I get the next step to get a better club, better team? And obviously it happened. I played 1.5 seasons there, and then I. Sparta Prague bought me, which was exciting. I was only 18, and then you just go, oh wow, this is historically the best club in the country, full of internationals, and that was the big deal for me. Then when I went to Sparta Prague, because then when I started playing, I had a huge competition there, but managed to get into goal. And when I started playing, then we played Champions League, and then I started coming to the national team, and then it really kicked off from there.
And then you went to France. You went to Rennais.
I went to France actually when all these offers started coming, because I was only 19 playing every game in the Champions League. I thought, okay, I want to go England, I want to go Germany, Italy, Spain, whatever. And then we were outside of the EU at the time. So the rules for the work permit to go to England were far different than it was after.
Right.
So I wouldn't get the exemption to get the work permit for Premier League. And then unfortunately, I was like, okay, I might have to wait or whatever. Then I get the offer from France, and I was like, I can speak English, I can speak German. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to France, I can't say a word French, everything's gonna be different, and it's not, you almost feel like, I didn't know much about French league. So, but then they show me the project to say, that they had a plan to become one of the best teams in France in the next decade, and they wanted to build up, and they had a very ambitious owner. So it was something I said, okay, this might be a good start. First experience in a different country, learning different culture, different language, and then it was a brilliant step for me. I thought it was perfect, because the club was like a right size, with a big support, with pressure, but not as much. And the project was there. I was young. I learned French. I learned how to survive in a different country, understand how to blend into a different culture, and adapt to everything. And then when I got the offer to go to England, I knew I'm ready. I knew that I will not find it difficult to adapt, to know how to, okay, where do I start? Bank account, building, somewhere to live, car, what should I do? All these things. I knew exactly how it works, and that was perfect. I knew that if I learned French from scratch in a very short period of time, I had the basic English from school, so I knew that if I stay there and actually learn and speak every day, that I will manage as well. So it was much easier, and and off we went. And that was obviously the chapter that started in July 2004, and I'm still where I was. So I'm still there.
That must have been huge, though. Moving to Chelsea was like, that's the holy grail in some ways, isn't it? To work with, with a team, to play in a team in the Premier League, Chelsea, iconic, legendary team. When you got the call, how did that happen? Because it's Ranieri, wasn't it?
It was Ranieri at the time, and it was in January actually, and they wanted me to move already in January, but the club, as I said, we had Mr. Pinot, who is like a fourth richest person in the whole entire France.
Right. So
he said, "Well, I don't need money. I don't want to sell my best player, so he's staying." And then I was like, "No, you have to let me go. This is too big." And then he said, "Okay, we'll let you go, but at the end of the season." So this is what actually happened, that I signed in January or February, early February in 2004. And then I stayed till the end of the season in France, which that gave me actually a bit of stability, and as well the time to prepare, that I started learning English, watching movies in English that say, well, when I turn up, then I will be already better prepared. And because it was the year where it was the Euro in Portugal, actually I didn't have to change anything, and it was probably better for me to have that tranquility to prepare for the European Championship as well, and then move on, and it was perfect. Everything went exactly like that, and the only thing was that by the time I reached the club, we had a different manager, and I was thinking, okay, there's the guy who ultimately agreed to sign me. He's not there. And I thought, okay, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? But at the same time, I was like, okay, new manager is the starting line for everybody. When you are already there, then the manager knows some people better, and then you go like, okay, will he prefer me over him? He knows him longer, whatever, will he give me a chance? New manager, he doesn't care what people did the previous year. He comes in and he said, okay, you are on the same line, show me what you got. And that was actually an advantage for me, because I believe that was the advantage. Everybody started from the same line, and after the preseason, Jose came to me and he said, actually, I decided that you're going to start the season. It's up to you. If you play well, you play. If you don't, you don't. And that was it. And I never looked back.
So over that period at Chelsea, they had I think you served under 9 different managers, if you don't want to count Ranieri, because he'd left. So they all have a different management style and bring a different culture to the team. Was that challenging to adapt?
We come back to all the discussion about the score is always 0-0, and I was like, if I do my job, and if I do it well, and if I'm training as leading by example, training and doing everything and performing, I always believe that no matter what manager you have, he will feel like, okay, that's the guy I can't leave out of my starting 11. So I always wanted to be the guy when the manager got asked, he said, okay, how do you start your lineup? He always said, okay, Petr Čech is in goal. And that was my aim. So I didn't really care what people do, what they come from, whatever. I was like, okay, I'll do my job, and I'll show you that you have no other option but putting me in that goal for the starting lineup. And all those, I think there were 11 actually managers. It went, because sometimes we had the interim manager. If we count them for a couple of days, like Ray Wilkins was probably in charge to one game against Watford, but he was. So if you count him, obviously he takes the number a little bit further. But yeah, that was always my aim. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm very adaptable. If I do my job and I play, I will cope with everything else much better, and that was ultimately what was happening. But the key was really to make sure that the manager has no other option, because I always felt like adapting to people, it might be a dangerous thing. You have to be yourself. The success you had is because you do certain things certain way. So you have to keep that. You have to do it suitable to what your boss wants, but at the same time, you still have to be you. And that was, that was for me the part where I was like, okay, I'm not gonna give him any chance, but put me in, and most of them they did.
So, being honest, I mean, which manager inspired you the most? Would you say was the one who brought the best out of you? I know you have an internal drive and an internal focus that's all yours, but it helps when you've someone is really you feel is connecting with you and has the same kind of rhythm as you. Who would you say?
I think Jose, because he has the similar drive, the ambition to win everything, hates losing, and then he would do anything to to get there. So that and his mentality, sort of transcended through the team, because he was really the one who always said, okay, I rather lose than draw. I want to win, because the draw is like not really like let's go for a win, and then if he can, okay, take the point, but not until you do everything to win. And he was always like keeping people on their toes, never let them be satisfied, and if he was not happy, you would know it straight away. And that was something when we installed that winning mentality that carried on. I really enjoyed working with Ancelotti, for example, as well, because he was a guy who really knew how to deal with people. So the atmosphere was very good. At the same time, the football was very clear, like tactically sound and fun at the same time. So he was a really nice person to work with, and I can carry on. But I would say Jose is significant as well, because he's the one who ultimately said, okay, I put you my number one, and everything is in your hands, it's up to you. So he gave me that opportunity to start, and it was after that, it was only up to me. And this is what I wished for. When I went to Chelsea, I was like, I wish somebody gave me the chance to start or show that I can. And then if I fail, is my own entire problem. And if I take it, that's obviously all, to my credit. And that was ultimately what I wished for. And he gave it to me. He said, okay, you start and then show me what you got.
He's a huge character. I mean, the special one. And did you all guys kind of sort of laugh behind that kind of like show business nearly, the way he kind of approached his role, like I'm the special one? It was like he really stood out as a manager.
And at the same time, it was not, when he said the reasoning, when you cut the line, I'm a special one, you feel, kind of an arrogant guy who thinks he's bigger than anybody. But then he said, yeah, but there is not many managers, they won UEFA Cup and then Champions League. So I'm one of the special one. I'm the special one because I belong to those who did it. And there were probably only 3 or 4 managers at the time in the world. So you basically see, he said it feels a bit arrogant, but at the same time, he's right, He's not one of the, he actually said it, no? He said, I'm not one of the bottle. He said, I'm the special one. So I'm like, yeah, okay. So he said it himself. And I was like, okay, he's a bit like a sort of, his self-esteem is big, but then when you watch, you see it, and you realize, he was actually right. He was not just one of the managers. He was one of those who started winning, and I think it took somebody 10 years before he lost his game at home.
I mean, love him or hate him, it's great for the game when you got those huge characters, for the press. It just highlights football more,
I love it. I love as well people who show emotions. I love people who come and have a little bit of laugh and fun. The press conference, is not always like the robotic A, B, finish. When you feel someone has the sort of personality to talk to the people, you enjoy it much better. It gives a different vibe. It gives some sort of as well the rivalry. It sort of brings up a little bit of a stir, and then he loved that. It was something he was really good at, and he sometimes to be honest, he sometimes went to press conference and he told us, he said, guys, I don't believe in this, but I'm going to say it there because I want just to stir the pot and I want everybody to sort of,
really?
Just to think about it. And then I want these people to hear that because it will just take the pressure off us and put it on them. And that was it. So it was kind of, some of his stuff were quite, calculated.
Psychological warfare.
And he was one of the first one who started doing it. Actually, we never had experience with that. But then we suddenly realized, he's kind of a step ahead. And he was, at the time, he was a step ahead. Obviously, then everybody, even the coaches and people, move on and everything. But at the time, he really was a step ahead. That's why we actually benefited from having him as a manager. And that's why we were successful.
And the training sessions were intense, weren't they, at the time?
We had, I have to say, we had a group where everybody wanted to play at the same time. And he would not let people, sort of be, might say half-assed, He said, no, I want everybody to be on. I give you day off, I give you that, but I need people to be really there, focused and go 100 miles an hour every training. And then at the time, you could only have 16 people for...
Right.
At the first 2 seasons, when I came to England, you could only have on the team sheet 16 people. So you realize that you have 20 internationals in one team, and only 16 can go to the game.
Right.
And then only 11 plays, 3 substitutions. So you just go, the competition was huge. So we had flying tackles and everything in training. Everybody was it was like a game. Sometimes the trainings were actually more intense than some of the games.
Wow.
And that was another part of success, that everybody was really ready. When we came to the pitch, we knew that we're ready, that nobody will actually outperform us like that. And it was very rare when that happened. And that was obviously one key reason why we were actually winning.
Sort of defenders-wise during that period, I mean, I know it's a difficult question, but who are your favourite defenders to work with on the pitch?
I think we, throughout the years, because obviously in your 11 years at the club, then defenders change, but we found really, great understanding, because JT was there all the time, so we played them, most of the games I played with him, so you sort of automatically know what to do. Carvalho was brilliant, reading the game, but then you have guys coming in later like Alex and David Luiz and Gary Cahill, and you always knew what you get from them, So like Paulo Ferreira on the right back here, he was never too visible, but he was always so consistent with his performance. You knew exactly what you get. Gallas, exactly what you get, and Ashley Cole was absolutely amazing as well. And he was brilliant because he had that sense when I was coming out of the goal during any actions, one-on-one or whatever cross, he would cover me up and go on the goal line, and he was ready to help if anything. So we had this understanding with these people, and it was actually great to have that connection, because it helped everybody to perform better.
And you kind of got a bit obsessive with the communication thing, in the sense of, as I know you speak 5, 6 different languages, and a lot of that was to do with the fact that you could communicate with your players better, because obviously you get players from all over the world. Is that true to say, that you kind of really focused on language just to be able to communicate?
It started
It
started a little bit by accident, because obviously when I came and I had French defenders, excuse me, and having French defenders, or having people like Gallas, for example, having people who Makelele in midfield, which was really important. Automatically I started talking to them in French when I had time. So when it was like a group order, when you have to give direction and you want to tell them what you want, you sort of use English.
Right.
That everybody hears it because it concerns everybody. But when it was like a specific to one player or to one individual, you know, to these French guys, I automatically started telling them in French. And then we bought Asier del Horno, who came from Bilbao. He couldn't say a word English.
Wow.
Carvalho, when he came, he couldn't say a word English. And then I would tell him something and he would do something else. He was driving me crazy. So I went to Jose and I said, listen, give me 10 Portuguese words that I can tell him
right.
when I need, because it's actually, I want that. I want him to understand me like that. And when he gets to level of English, when he gets it quickly, then it's fine. I don't need to use it anymore. I will speak English. And the same was with Asier. So then the Spanish, when I started learning Spanish, then I actually said, oh, you know what? Half of the world speaks Spanish. If you take Latin America, I was like, I actually enjoy it. So I started learning Spanish.
Wow.
It kind of gave me that incentive to start learning Spanish. And then I learned Spanish myself. And talking to people like that every time, you know, it gave me, you know, it's like the best practice. So, and this isn't when I started using it, when we had, you know, when you had people around. So I was using their native language to make sure that they know straight away what I'm saying. And that was perfect.
Did you learn to curse in different languages?
Oh, this is the first thing you... No, to be honest, you don't have to even want to learn, you know, the bad words in different languages. If you are every day in a training ground, during practice, that's what you hear most of the time.
Right.
So after a couple of months or a couple of years, when you play with the same people, they start swearing in Czech. Because they hear you saying words, and then you suddenly hear, did you really say that? And then they go, and then I go like, guys, don't say that. When my family is around, you don't say that, you know. And everybody laughs, but then because you hear it, you know, when you miss a target or something goes wrong, you make a mistake in training, everybody swears in their own language.
Right, of course.
And then, so basically you hear it all the time, and then, you know, and then I learned, this is what you learn the first. You know all the bad words, all the bad language, everything is the first thing you learn in football, in football world when you go to play for an international team. Then the problem is to learn the right things, because then you have to learn.
Strikers. Who's the striker they went, oh, not that guy. Oh, God, not up against him.
Well,
who would you say?
I hope all of them.
But also for you with them, you know, you're like, oh, I'm up against him today. Obviously with you as a keeper, they're thinking that. But also for you, it's a striker up against you on a game.
I was lucky that the strikers we had, they played with me.
Right, okay.
Because Drogba and Crespo, the finishing, Gudjonsson had a great finishing. We had some fantastic players. And, you know, that was always, it was always a challenge. So you feel like, okay, I'm glad these guys are on my team.
Right.
Because, you know, they are dangerous. But I kind of, I never liked playing against Rennais.
Really?
Because he could do everything, and he was relentless and strong, and he would never give you a second. He was always there and always ready to pounce, you know, if you dropped it or whatever. Then, and the second one, difficult one, was like in the Premier League, was Agüero, because his finishing is top. And he almost feel like, okay, he doesn't really want to shoot hard or whatever, but he's very precise and his timing is great. So it was a difficult one. But really, Rennais was the one who can chip you from halfway line.
Right.
You know, he can press in and he can be there. He can score with the header, right foot, left foot. He's a kind of he has something, you know, every time you are there, he has this game, analyzes, reading, the feel for it, that it was always dangerous. And then, of course, when you play Champions League, you play all the top players in the world. So then you can, you know it's going to be tough. If you play Messi, Ronaldo, or Ronaldinho's and Real Madrid, you always go, you know, top players. So that's always the challenge.
I mean, I know you're probably tired of talking about this, but the head injury at the game against Reading, Stephen Hunt, the knee in the head, and you nearly died from that. I mean, that must have been a very stressful time. I'm just thinking about how you must have felt at the time. Is it all over? Will you be able to come back from it? Can you just talk us through the process of kind of how you were feeling at the time when it happened?
I think I have an advantage that I don't really remember much. You know, I remember coming to the game because we actually played Ireland on the international duty the Wednesday before. Mm-hmm. And I was flying from Dublin. I was flying straight to, on Thursday morning, went straight to the training ground, and then we traveled to the game. So I was a bit tired. So I remember the night before, I had some massage or treatment, and then the day of the game, I just remember going to the stadium, and then we had a handshake because we lost the toss, so they wanted to change, and then this is the last thing I remember. So I think that's kind of an important moment because I don't remember the moment of the action of going to collect the ball and then the injury. So. I think it helped me not to be afraid of something I can't remember, because when you have car accident and somebody remembers exactly the angle, the impact, and every second of it, when you are in the car and you see somebody coming from a similar angle, I think you probably feel like, oh, this is not good. And it might give you all sort of anxiety, and people then, probably struggle for it, some better, some worse. But I don't have that. I've never had that feeling because I couldn't remember it. So that helped me when I came back on the pitch. But during the recovery time, first I had no memory. So I would wake up and I didn't know where I am, what happened, why I'm there, what's going on. I had zero idea. That was one of the worst feelings I had because. If I ask you, okay, who are you? What's your name? Where do you live? What's the year and what's the date? You just go, okay, today is Tuesday, 2025. We are in March. Easy, I'm Rob Kaas, and I'm in Prague. And then the doctor asks you, and you can't answer, and you just go, I don't know. Oh, I don't know. It gives you so much. Like a stress and anxiety feeling, like how on earth I'm not able to answer that. So I couldn't. At first I didn't have the memory. I remember who was my wife because Martina was there with me all the time, and that was pretty much all I knew at the time. So then I got tired after 20 minutes of talking to people, fell asleep, and the whole story continued like for first couple of days. So probably. More than for me, I think it must have been for my closest or the people who saw me in that state, seeing like, oh my God, what's gonna happen now? So first they were already happy that I survived. That was the first step. But then nobody knew if I'm gonna fully recover, if I'm gonna have any issues, because obviously the left side of the brain, you have the motorical like a center, then you have the speech. So obviously nobody knew if I will be able to speak again, like properly without problems, or if I'm going to move exactly the same way. So then when we passed that stage where it was clear that I can speak and I can move, although the speech took a little bit of time, because I was mixing words who phonetically sounded the same way. So sometimes it was funny what came out. If you want to say that phone is on the table and you say the cone is on the cable, then and everybody goes like, what? And then actually you don't know. And you don't know. So you think that you said the right thing, and then everybody around goes like, I don't know. And then you get frustrated. So there was, after we get over that stage, that was the feeling where you go, okay, I can get there, and we go back to the process. Let's take it step by step. And I said to everybody, listen, I want to play football, and if it's possible, I give myself all the chance I have to get back. And if it doesn't work and the brain can't take it, and I will never play again, I give 100% chance. And then I will accept that I'm not lucky, and that's the end of the story. So I pretty much focus only on, okay, I do everything I can, what is my ability to give myself the chance, and obviously this is where you need the support of people around. because they were probably struggling more than me. I know I found days where I couldn't do anything. Then you just lie whole day and, you know, you have a headache and your brain just doesn't do anything. And it doesn't feel great, but I guess, you know, you find, you know, you as a player or when you grow up, you face difficulties sometimes. So you sort of go, okay, they will be better. But for people around, actually it was probably the hardest part, and I had the right support. So, you know, they managed to, you know, pick me up, and then I started feeling better and better, and then I started feeling stronger. I could train more, I can do more things, and then in the end I was like, you know what, I'm gonna come back. You know, I know, and then the doctor said, okay, don't the whole year, just leave it. Don't worry about it. Next season, next this, next that. And I said, no, I feel ready to go. So when I went after 3 months, they told me that the skull, if I wear the helmet, the skull is okay to play. Then I said, okay, let's go. Against their sort of advice, but I felt at the time that it was the best thing to do, and I still think it was the best thing to do at the time for me, and I did it, and I came back.
That first game, though, you know, after the injury, was that stressful? I mean, when you're going for that first save?
It was terrible, because, you know, all my recovery and the preparation, I wore the helmet, but there were no people.
Right.
Because I had to do it on my own. Because believe it or not, I had one team session before I played that game at Liverpool. Because literally on Thursday, the surgeon said, okay, that's 12 weeks. Skull is looking good. You can start training. Friday, I trained with the team. Saturday, I played the game.
Sure.
And that was one of those things where I've been literally all the time on my own with the physio, and then we did things. But then we came to Anfield, and obviously we all know that Anfield is one of the noisiest for the big games.
Sure.
And then those 45,000 people at the time, now is obviously bigger, but I think that at the time they had like 46,000. It was sold out, and then noise came, and my head was like in the tumble dryer.
Wow.
It was terrible. So, you know, when you have like everything felt like shaking, and I couldn't hear, and I felt confused, and I'm thinking in a warm-up, and I felt like, oh my God, I can't play. Because you know, everything is wrong.
A completely different sensory kind of experience.
But then I got then I got used to it step by step. So the first game was terrible because of that. You know, it felt strange. Then second game I got used to the noise coming different way, and then after like 4 or 5 games, it became absolutely normal and natural to me, and then it was fine.
Because it's a different sensory experience with the helmet on than if you don't have the helmet, isn't it? Because like we were saying earlier on, the way you could feel the atmosphere in the stadium, but with the helmet, I'm sure it probably affected that experience?
Everything, because my ears are covered, there are small holes, because obviously the crack is all the way closed, so it's kind of like a close. So second thing is, even if you know, your receptors of, you know, they are everywhere on the skin, on your hair, on the so sometimes you feel people coming close to you like that. You know, They don't even touch you, but you know there is something there because the energy is there. And then, you know, when you have the helmet, you don't have that. So when you come for cross, when I didn't have the helmet, I knew exactly that people are there, but suddenly I couldn't really tell if they are not or they are there. So I had to learn to scan more, to look every time double check that what's behind me, because that was not automatically, you know, clear to me before I learned to recognize it. And that was the challenge at the beginning. But, you know, more you do it, more you pay attention to it, more you're aware of it, then you adapt. And then after a while, it just became a normal part of my day, my game, my training. And that was, and then I've never really felt like it kind of holds me back or makes it complicated for me.
So how do you think the culture has changed the football culture has changed from when you started out to where it is now? What do you think the big changes have been?
You know, I think the things the coaches done and said, and how they pushed people 20 years back, it would be the end of their career now, because because obviously I think we kind of moved through of like being a complete dictator who can say and do what he wants to actually treating people like like people in a way, and be more cautious though what you tell them, not to harm them or hurt them and kind of make them feel bad. So that's something I think that changed, and obviously style of football changed. It goes hand to hand with it as well, where there was the main objective was always to whatever you play, long,
Sure.
short, fight, get there, leave everything there, find solutions and win the game. Now, everybody tries to play different game. Some, with starting from the back, using more possessions, trying to keep control of the game with more possessions. Those who do it well, they have advantage. Those who can't do it well, I don't think it's the best way to do it. But everybody has a change. But this is what changed, obviously. As the game changes and evolves, then even the coaching and the style evolves. And every decade when you look, the game changes a little bit. So.
And what about the technology and the data now they use? Because literally they're tracking a player for the whole game, literally every step he takes. How do you feel that affects the players? Is it less pressure, more pressure, because they can understand what they're doing or not doing?
It has advantages. It's sometimes, I feel that when you overcomplicate it, and if you don't use the data well, then you can actually misuse it in the wrong way, because the interpretation of the data can be, there are many ways how you can interpret it. So I always say, if you look at the data, look at the picture, then you have to connect it to your eyes and what you see on the pitch, what actually really happened on the pitch, because the numbers sometimes can mislead, and if you put it in the wrong context. So people who actually take it to the good context and work with it well, I think they have advantage, because there's a lot of games, and you don't want to overload the player. Before, everybody would do the same thing, and it's true that some people benefited from him, some people actually didn't really benefit from him. It actually harmed them, because they felt more tired and they were never really that like 100% ready, because they were overloaded. Now, you can measure it a little bit better, so you can actually tailor-made the preparation for the players, which is good.
Right.
But if you overcomplicate it and sometimes stop player from playing just because you feel like, numbers are dead, whatever, and then you make them stop, and then you probably, if they're in a good form, they feel good, and suddenly put them like a stop and start, it might not help. So sometimes, if you overcomplicate it, it might not work. But generally, the data can give you some sort of guidance if you can use it well together with your, like a much knowledge.
Did you study a lot of your games afterwards during your career? Watch the game after the later on?
I always
see where the mistakes were, or the advantages.
Every game, we already had, like, the goalkeeper coach had like always like a notebook, and he put times and actions during the game. So when the game finished, I was doing like a recovery bike, 20 minutes. He would come with the screen and show me certain actions, and to say, okay, I want to know your opinion now when it's fresh.
Right.
And then we come back to it tomorrow, when you sleep on it, when you lie on it, then you sometimes you see things a different way, because you see it on the video, then you connect it with what you felt and saw at the time on the pitch, and then actually it gives a much better like a picture overall. So we used to do that all the time, because you always want to be in a position where you give yourself the best chance. So whether it's the timing, whether it's the positioning, whether it's handling certain actions, that was always, we always done it.
So the move to Arsenal, I mean, very contentious, huge rival of Chelsea. I mean, how did that go down in the boardroom when you finally said to the manager, or the owner, or whoever you went to, and said, look, I want to move? And that was obviously because from what we've told me in the past, it's like you didn't feel like you were first choice anymore, and you felt maybe it's time to move on. What was the conversation?
I felt at the time that I needed a new challenge, because I was at Chelsea 11 years, and then you just go, I won everything, and it felt like, they are kind of preparing for the next chapter, and I was like, okay, but I'm not ready to just be a part of that, not to be the main person, just not to be a part of that. So I wanted to change. I wanted a new challenge, but at the same time, for me, Premier League is the best league in the world, and I didn't want to leave Premier League, and I felt like Arsenal is the right move, because obviously when they started building the Emirates, then obviously they had to juggle building the new stadium with the finances. So there was some years they had not won the Premier League, and I felt like, okay, this is the right challenge. That would be absolutely perfect, to go there and try to win finally, break the duck and win the Premier League with Arsenal, for Arsenal. And obviously, Champions League was the same thing. So I'm
Right,
like, okay,
sure.
because they lost the final in 2006 in France against Barcelona. So I'm like, you could see the ambitions, the history, the support, because Arsenal has a great support. And I was like, okay, that was for me, that was something I was like, okay, that brings everything together. The challenge is there, top club, try to, like, the history, this new stadium, new ambition, and the challenge of bringing the Premier League back. And I really wanted to stay in the Premier League, and I thought like, okay, this is a perfect scenario for me. So I went to speak to the owner, because I had a year left on my contract.
Sure.
So I basically had to tell him, listen, I would love to do that, and I would like your permission to do it. Or understand, he can say no, but I understand I have one more year. And then for all I had done for the club, he said, okay, nobody wants to see you go. Jose was going mad, but at the same time, he said, for all you've done for the club, okay, fine, I give you that, I grant you that wish. And this was basically how the transfer was done.
And you got death threats at the time as well, didn't you? I mean, it got a bit sort of silly, didn't it?
I think majority of people, took it well. It was few people kind of
Didn't
like,
see the funny side of it.
you always find one or two who obviously take it to the extreme, and you just go, yeah, unfortunately, that's it's too many.
It's life,
There's way
yeah.
too many people on this planet that you would probably have it all perfect and
Sure.
and fine. But I was actually, happy the way everybody took it. The majority of Chelsea fans and obviously the Arsenal fans welcomed me so well. So I was really happy to start there.
Arsene Wenger, how did you get on with him?
Arsene is a gentleman, and he's made a huge difference to Arsenal Football Club. Because since he came to the club, obviously they started being competitive, started winning. Well, they had been winning before, but that was that era of invincibles. They won the titles. Obviously, in the late 90s, early 2000 was always Man United, Arsenal, the rivalry there, Ferguson, Wenger, and it was great to see him as a manager, because he has a different approach. He's more like about people. He wants people to feel good, to be ready to and to enjoy what they are doing. So it was a different approach, and he really cared about the Arsenal way to play the nice football. Play the football. Don't play just to win. Play with the nice football as well. So it was a different environment, different philosophy. It was a great experience for me too. You wanna compare two top clubs. One how it's done in one and how it's done in another, and that was I really enjoyed it.
So that was up until, and then you stayed with them until 2019, was it? And then obviously you moved back. I mean, Arsenal fans will probably give it to me in the neck for not spending enough time talking about Arsenal, but still, we only got so much time. But you moved back into the boardroom at Chelsea. Was that a culture shock, like moving from being a player into the boardroom and being the tech advisor? Was that difficult, challenging?
The unfortunate situation was that that obviously I announced that and I'm gonna end up my career because I know I had issues with my ankle and the Achilles, and it started taking the joy away. And I'm always the person who wants to do everything 100 miles an hour. And then when I was training, and every day you carry like a pain, and in the end I was thinking I've been doing that for 20 years, and I felt like, okay, this is taking the joy and it's sort of like why I'm doing it away. So I decided that I'm gonna call it, like at the end of the season, that I'm gonna call it a day, and end up my playing career. And then obviously then I was like, okay, now everybody knows I'm there. People know that since summer that I'm available to work. Then I was like, okay, if somebody comes, gives me an offer, whatever, I will wait till the end of the season, then look at the options and come back. And the the unfortunate thing was that, when we went through the Europa League all the way to the final, which would be absolutely amazing to finish with that trophy in the hand, like my final game and bring in that, European Cup to Arsenal, we faced Chelsea. And I felt, okay, this is the worst scenario, because of course people will always, if ever I go back, people will always come and say, but at the time I had no decision in my mind. I wanted to win a game.
Right.
And I felt, okay, let's do that, play final game, hopefully we win a game, and then I'll think about my future. And then obviously, unfortunately, we lost. And then like 10 days later, when I was on after holidays, I've said with people, with my people, and I was like, okay, what are the options? I have this option. This is a clear option. This is something as well. I felt like, okay, if I have this opportunity to come to Chelsea, it was as well that the owner actually, only thanks to him, I was able to go there. And when he wanted me to come back and work for him, I was like, I think that's fair from me that they when they give me this option, I take it, and I want it, because I felt like, okay, I still had so much experience, and I could really, and I knew the club, I knew the people, and I felt that it would be really to my advantage.
Right.
And that's why I agreed on that, because I felt at the time that, and not felt, but I knew if I didn't take the job, somebody else would get the job.
Right, sure.
And I felt at the time, can I let this massive opportunity go and let pass? No, I don't think so, because I would probably have regrets not to have taken it. So I said no, I do it, and then that's why I decided to come back.
Psychologically, how did you deal with giving up playing football at the level you were playing for your whole career, at the height of football for 20 years nearly? And how did you deal with that psychologically, like stopping playing football?
It's hard, but I think it's harder when you have to stop because something else made you stop. So if you get an injury wherever you said, okay, now you're done, and you were not prepared and you didn't want to finish, I think it's harder because you have that bitterness of, I wanted to play and this, silly injury stopped me, or whatever it is, stopped me from playing. Because I sort of put in my mind the half a year when I knew I'm coming there, it was a little bit easier, but it's still the toughest thing for any professional athlete because, well, I retired early because I could have played, but I would have to carry that injury for another 2 years. And as I said, it took a joy out of my playing, right. So I felt like I'm not really sure I want to do that. But because when I put it in my mind, I said, okay, I came to terms that might be it. So it was easier to accept. Although the first year, every game was a bit of a struggle. Going to the match and watch it from the stand, it was a little bit of a struggle because I knew I could have been on the pitch. And I felt like, I would have far more joy being on the pitch than sitting in the stand. And so that was the hard part. But then you slowly get used to it. You do other things, you have other challenges, you work with people, you have everyday work, so you don't have much time to think about it. Then that comes the November, December, January, the rain and cold and wind, and you just go, oh, thanks God, I don't have to be outside training. Then you start seeing better things out of not playing, and you see your family a different way, and sometimes you can take some days and then you just go, yeah, okay, and then step by step, I got a little bit used to it. But obviously, I had so many challenges because when I came back, the COVID strike, and then you suddenly go through pandemic that never happened before. So you have other challenges, and it again brings a different dynamics and everything. But there was a great experience, and to be honest, pandemic was the best thing for me to get over my playing career, because
breathing space.
When you go, you sit on the stand, everybody far apart with the mask, and you hear every touch of the ball, every word. You score a goal, and there's nobody to celebrate. Empty stadium, you just go, I'm so glad I don't play.
Right.
And it was only 7 months after I stopped. So basically, I really said, I had the best timing of it, because if I decided to play one more year, I would have to finish with the empty stadium, and having not really the most pleasant experience of finishing the career last year. So I was actually, the pandemic actually put me like, oh, you did the right thing. You stop in the perfect time, because you don't have to go through it as a player. So
brilliant. So you've always been incredibly strong psychologically, but did you see any of your teammates who were also retiring over the years struggle with it?
Oh, there's a lot of people who actually find it hard, because their purpose was to wake up every day, go to training, have the banter with the guys, push himself to the limit, and at the weekend go on the pitch and leave it there. That was the life. And some people actually, they would love to do it forever. I would love to do it forever, but I kind of understood that there are moments, and I prepared for it. And I did my studies before, so I had the education that I could move on for the next step. But some people just concentrate on playing, and then they start thinking about what's next. And this is the hardest part, because when you have nothing prepared, you start from scratch. Suddenly you're missing the only thing you love almost, and then then you might find it difficult to restart from zero, and then start chasing the coaching budgets, or then start chasing the rest of your education before you can even actually start doing something.
Right.
So that's the hard part, because when you play professional football since you're 17, you obviously finish the education, you have your A-level, but then you don't have any practical work behind you. So if you apply anywhere for a job, people go, oh, what have you done? Oh, I played professional football for 20 years. They go like, okay, but we have guys who just came out of university, or have done 10 years of it and 15 years here, and then, okay, they are better prepared, we take them.
Sure.
So, and if they ask you about, okay, do you have the certificate or education, further education, something specific for it? Not yet, I'm in process. They go, okay, when you finish, come back. So, these things then put people off, and it might be hard. Some people just never get over the fact that, their life was that fun. And then unfortunately they can. I think the advantage with music, is that you can play as long as you're fit. If you are fit and if you love it still, then you can do it as long as you want.
But you're scratching that sort of competitive itch by playing ice hockey now. So you started out loving ice hockey, probably more so than football when you were a kid. Is that fair to say, or as much at least?
As much. It would be probably my first choice if I could. And obviously it was difficult financially for my family, so they put me on, playing football. So I don't complain. I have to say.
Did they push you? Were they pushy parents as far as pushing it?
No, they were no. They supported us. They always were there for us, and then let us, do. And my father always said, if you want to do it properly. Like, don't waste it. Like, what's the point if you don't do it properly? So it's kind of my thing, and that always stayed with me. If you do it, why waste the time if you don't want to do it properly?
Sure.
And that's what I do pretty much with everything I try to do.
So playing ice hockey, is it as fun as you'd hoped it would be?
Oh, definitely. It's definitely, and it's challenging, it's fun when you play games. It's less stressful than it was when I played football, and because this is more like fun thing for me, so I don't take it as seriously, although I do. Yeah. But it's not, that to that limit, it's not to that extreme. So, I love it, I enjoy it. And I have to say, as well, feeling of the dressing room, I'm the oldest one there. So as well, you stay young because you are with young people. You get the
good to stay around young people,
different
isn't it?
dynamics and different, you get to understand the new generation a little bit better as well. You just go, oh, okay, that's why my kids say that all the time, and then you are there, you suddenly, and you have the same is the challenge, is the game. There's adrenaline going from it. When you win, you're happy. When you play well, you're happy. So yeah, that brings that, kind of happiness from being able to compete still and have fun a little bit with it.
And your kids are playing football now. I mean,
Yes.
do they ask you for a lot of advice, or is it usual kids, that's dad,
No, they do. They do ask me for advice, and we speak about it. And I always say, I think you should do that, but if you don't want to do it, it's up to you. But if you want to do it, I'm here to help. So I sort of try to guide them to say, well, you are telling me that this is what you want to achieve, and you are doing that. It's not really compatible. So you have to start thinking about it a different way. So I try to be more that sort of guidance for them than saying, come on, you have to go for a run. I said, no.
Right.
I said, you want to achieve that? This is how you can get there better. Why don't you do that?
And they're doing very well, aren't they?
They're doing really well, yes. And the advantage is that they really love playing football. That's their sport. They love it. It's not because I played. You can clearly see it. It's their thing. They want to do it themselves, and this is what's the most important.
I was just thinking, because you've played with some terrible injuries as well, with broken shoulders. I mean, they wouldn't allow that today, would they? I mean, someone would point it out.
I think people, they would probably allow it, but if they did, I don't think many people would do that now.
And
because everybody's I need to think about my next. Before we didn't really care. We were like, okay, can I still do it? Okay, fine. It's painful, yes, fine. Will I suffer? Yes, I will. But will I play well enough? Yeah, I probably will. Okay, so let's carry on. that was more the thinking. Honestly, if I look back, I'm thinking, how did I manage to do that? I don't know. Because when you look back, sometimes you think he was a little bit borderline, 18 months with 2 broken shoulders, but okay, it can be done.
Come on, you're hardcore, dude. Let's be honest. Getting onto music for a minute. So, growing up in the Czech Republic, what were you listening to as a kid? Because that got you into drummers, and who were your favorite artists at the time?
So, I think I got my sort of range of music thanks to my older sister.
Right.
Because she was into, Nirvana, Fate No More, Skank Anansi, and all these, things that came up from the underground and in the early 90s. And so we listened to that a lot. Then, obviously, after the revolution, we started having you could see the MTV. Finally, you could see the MTV. Right. Then you would have a music programs on TV as well. Different, variety of artists which we would never heard of before. So you could, before that, I would listen to Queen. I would listen to Czech Olympic and all these, Karel Gott and all these traditional Meky. That's what we got, This is what we got. My parents got. So this was what we would be listening to.
Sure.
And I actually liked that Queen. I started listening to because of my friend who was my teammate, and his dad has all the vinyl of Queen, different albums, and we will always go there and listen to that. So obviously this is what shaped kind of my taste of music for rock and then you look back, further and further when you can find the opportunity to go as long as, Beatles go and you get to Led Zeppelins and then it goes Rolling Stones and off it goes, And then, so I stayed more like a rock person always through like the Nirvana, Dave Grohl, Foo Fighters, and I stayed more on this side. But then you listen to Red Hot Chili Peppers, then it comes U2, then it comes all these, big bands. And I actually realized that I'm not like a genre-focused listener. I loved, I I listen to something and I go like, oh, I love that. I don't care. It can be Pearl Jam or it can be opera. I don't care. It can be wide range, you know, from pop to R&B, anything, jazz. So I either like it or I don't. So I'm kind of open to every music, and if I like it, I like it, and I don't care what people think, and if people like it, don't like it, but that's okay. I like that. I love their music. I enjoy it, and this is why I go from heavy metal to Coldplay, Beatles, and Queen, like a whole range of styles.
There's only two types of music, good and bad.
For me, yes. And I'm open actually to you know to do that. And although I enjoy like like a proper rock music, you know, probably the most, I still enjoy listening to everything else. And this is I think that this is how you sort of enjoy the music the most, because I can put the radio on and either put the volume up or down related to what I like. But sometimes you hear a new artist or new genre or someone who is completely coming with like a different music, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And then I get to search and see if that band or artist or musician, their other music is as interesting as the piece I just heard, and this is how you discover so much more.
And you got to play with Roger Taylor, didn't you, at one point? Queen, speaking of Queen and drummers.
I did, and I met him back in 2012. I met Roger at the game. He flew with us to
he's a Chelsea
Lisbon.
fan, isn't he? Yeah.
He's a Chelsea fan, and he flew with us to Lisbon for the Champions League game. I think it was a quarterfinal, and we started chatting, and then I came to his studio, mess around with his drum kit, and we just had a lunch and chat, and we sort of stayed, in touch, and then I did a couple of things with, we did one thing for BBC, and then he did, we made that song When I Retire. We did that football thing. We did it there in his studio just because I thought it was a good idea. And this last year I spent it was a treat, because I spent a time when Robbie Williams when they were preparing for the tour.
Great.
So Carl Brazil, who is his drummer and drummer for James Blunt, and now he has his own band, King Herd. So I got to spend some time there with because I met him at Soccer 8. We started talking drums, and then he invited me over to the studio, and so it was brilliant experience to see how you prepare for a massive tour. Sure. Going all around the globe. So with two top artists. So that's something I always love to watch and see masters at work.
Yeah. Well, tonight we're doing a show. You're going to guest with us tonight, back with the McCartney guys again. That's going to be so much fun. It's a tiny venue, but it's an amazing place, and it'll be rammed to the rafters.
It's a treat. These guys are amazing.
It's going to be so much fun tonight. I'm really looking forward to it. So, what's next, Peter? You think for you?
Well, I'm more involved in the business side of work now because I decided. To wait for the let's say everyday job, because obviously my children are growing up fast. They both play football. I want to see them play. I want to spend more time with them, and obviously if some opportunity comes where I go back to football on everyday basis, I do. It has to be the right project, and if not, I do. I've some business to do in Czech Republic and outside, and this is what I try to do more when I have chance. I'm doing my PhD at the moment, which I'm hoping to finish before summer. Okay. So that takes my time, and
you have a training badges as well.
Yeah, I'm doing that as well. I'm trying to open as many doors as I can when I decide to take up something. I want to be prepared and have everything ready. So I do all that, and it takes some time, and I hope that it will lead to something great again.
So you may come back to football, possibly?
Yeah, of course. That's the environment I know the most. I know the best, and still enjoy it. And I think I have things to offer. And so hopefully, I will, depending what, as I said, depending what project and what role as well. I can, the coaching is something I'm thinking more and more about. But it needs to be right time. So I'm sort of preparing for it and keeping the doors open, and we will see what future brings.
When I was doing, as I said at the very start of the podcast, when I was doing the research, I was just thinking, what an extraordinary, absolutely incredible career you've had. And I was thinking to myself, if you're a young person, anybody starting out in a business or sport or anyone else, I would say to them, look at your life and see how Petr Čech dealt with it. Study it, and you won't go wrong. I think you'll be a massive success. I think everything you've achieved, and I know it sounds very gushy here, and I don't care, because I'm a big fan of yours, and I really love you as an individual. I just think you're an absolute inspiration to me as a friend. When I look at your career and everything you've achieved and the way you've stayed grounded. How did you stay so grounded and over all these years? I mean, I know you've got a wonderful wife, Martina, and the kids are wonderful, but how did you maintain that?
And no, sometimes it's the way you brought up. Sometimes it's the environment you are in. But I love to do things my way. I sort of love being me and do things my way. Sometimes, my wife or even the kids, they say, like, you really are different. You do things like that. I think, yeah, I'm actually proud to be different in a way. And I want to do things my way. And I believe that if you do it well and if you do the right things, even the people from outside accept it. And the way I am, and I think that helps as well, to create your own path in a certain way, because you just get along with what you want and how you want to do it. And I'm adaptable and I like working with people when it makes sense and make things work and happen in the right way. So, I always believe that if you do things well, if you treat people well, if you prepare and if you put the energy in and the effort in, I always believe that at some point you will get something back. And if I'm happy and it gives me the feeling of satisfaction and that I achieved something I wanted, then that I take it as, yeah, okay, I can live with that. That's why I was doing it for.
The other thing I really admire is your wife's work ethic, because obviously you've done very well financially in your career. She doesn't have to work, but she has her own business and she's very sort of determined to make that a success as well. I mean, that's just such a great influence for the kids to see that, mum as well just hasn't sat back and it's like has her own career, has her own business, and the pair of you together are just kind of an inspiration.
When you work or when you not work, when you live with a professional athlete as a partner, it's tough because at times, it takes you different places and you can't really build everything you want because it's not the right timing. So she had to, she was always preparing for the right timing to do things she loves and she wants to do. So that project she had in mind for so long, and then she got the opportunity, she found the place and she kicked off from there and she's doing amazing well. So, that's what I like as well, because we are really compatible together the way we do things, although we are completely different, but I think together we are really compatible. That's why we are together over 25 years.
Wow, amazing. One last question I forgot to ask you, just for me personally, is have you got any rituals or superstitions before games or nothing?
No, I have a routine. I used to have a routine for warm-up, but it was not for a reason of being superstitious. It was because I knew that routine brings me ready and makes me warm and ready to play. So that's why I did it. And if I messed up the order, I didn't really care. Right. As long as I did it all, I knew I'm ready. It didn't matter if I did something 6 times or 8 times. I always believe that, if you prepare it, you do the routine, I'm going. And I'm not a superstitious person. I don't believe doing the same thing brings the same result, because the world is way too dynamic for that. So, so I sort of go, okay, if I do the right things consistently, I have a consistently better chance of succeeding than not.
So listen, we've got to prepare for a gig. We've got to do some rehearsing, speaking of preparation. So all I got to say is that, Peter, thank you so much. You've been an inspiration, and it's probably my favorite podcast of all time. I'm so happy to have you here.